Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now May 27th of 2021, and ever since the very end of the Mandalorian series finale, of course, the Season 2 finale, I should say, a lot of fans have been very much excited about the future of the Star Wars franchise by Disney, Lucasfilm, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, etc. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Also, if you guys would like to, make sure to check me out at Mike01 on Twitter. Now, when we go ahead and examine what's been going on behind the scenes as of right now over at Disney and Lucasfilm, there's been a lot of progression when it comes to over a dozen Star Wars TV shows that are currently in the works, as well as new movies that are about to be announced later this year. So, keep in mind that November to December timeframe of this year, it's going to be a big portion of 2021 that's really going to give the fans a lot more intel on the overall roadmap of Star Wars. Now, looking ahead to the future, when we examine Jon Favreau, alright, what he's doing right now is that he is working with his partner Dave Filoni on multiple projects. We're talking about the Book of Boba Fett, we're talking about the Ahsoka Tano series, we're talking about Mando Season 3 and 4, which by the way are being worked on back to back. This really does show us a light at the end of the tunnel here about what's to come for Star Wars overall. So, when we examine everything related to what Kathleen Kennedy is doing, she's still very much dedicated to her Acolyte TV series, which, by the way, I believe is going to be a massive flop, a failure, and it's not going to live up to expectations. Now, moving ahead past all of this, sorry, given that, yes, we have other shows coming out next year, such as Star Wars Andor, and they're trying to get Star Wars Kenobi out next year as well, as long as they stick to their schedule. However, what's really intriguing is that given that The Bad Batch and the Book of Boba Fett are the two major shows for this year, both Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are creating major changes over at Lucasfilm with their new projects that have yet to be announced over at Disney that will actually end up getting revealed this November to December. Now, it's best described that just recently Jon Favreau engaged in an interview when questioned about the Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian's future, to where Jon Favreau was eventually questioned about retcons to the sequel trilogy and if he will be fixing the sequel trilogy films by Disney. Jon Favreau went on to simply state that what you can expect in future Mandalorian seasons are especially multiple storylines and plot points that are going to be used as a way to change your perspective on the entire story of the sequels. Favreau makes it clear that I know some fans don't want the sequels to be referenced in these shows. However, our attempt is to improve how the fandom views the sequel trilogy movies, and that you can expect future Mando seasons and even the Book of Boba Fett to be used as tools in a sense to sharpen the sequel movies that have gotten a bad reception, and that's what we are trying to improve. When further questioned about fixing the sequel trilogy movies, Favreau makes it clear that a lot of that will be done through powerful ways through the Force that will be surprising to the fandom, and also the Ahsoka Tano series and the use of Luke Skywalker in multiple projects that we are getting very excited to announce in the coming months. This is a big project for us over at Lucasfilm to sharpen the sequel trilogy and how we can make the fandom a happier destination to improve the future of this beautiful franchise that George gave us back in 1977. But yes, we will be providing some patchwork for the sequel movies and using many of the new shows coming to light. Now, separate from all of this, behind the scenes over at Lucasfilm, they're also working on alternate cuts of both The Rise of Skywalker and The Last Jedi. Now, this is all rooted to Bob Chapek. What he is doing is that he looked at Zack Snyder's Justice League, and he actually wanted to kind of do the same exact thing what HBO Max did with Justice League. You know, giving the fans that big alternate cut of the film that is going to be a lot longer than the original. That's what Bob Chapek wants to do, both for episodes 8 and 9 of Star Wars. Now, we talked about this a couple of months ago, that that's not due until late 2023, around the holiday season, give or take once again, November to December. And it's going to be heavily edited, will feature many of the plethora of deleted scenes that were meant to be inserted that Kathleen Kennedy did not allow to actually be placed in the Blu-ray edition. So I want to go over Jon Favreau here. It's very interesting because when we go back to Season 1, let's go back to Season 1 here. Alright, they really set up a lot of the core characters of The Mandalorian. Then Season 2, it brought in a lot of the fan favorites, right? Ahsoka, Luke, you name it. Even in the Mandalorian series, you know, it's been heavily implied that that little creature that you do see floating in the tank is indeed the introduction of Snoke and the Snoke clones. And we also know that for Season 4 of The Mandalorian, through what we have talked about before in the past, is that Palpatine is going to have a major influence on the show. And that he will be throwing in many storylines from Star Wars Dark Empire into the TV series. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dark Empire, but I do suggest that you guys go ahead and look it up, read it up, you know, or listen to the audiobook version. Back then it was called a radio drama. It's basically an audible movie. It's awesome. I do suggest that you guys look it up, check it out. It's very fun. Now, about Jon Favreau's plan to fix the sequel trilogy through patchwork in the Mandoverse, alright? I gotta say, I do agree with some people that I don't want a lot of sequel references in this show. It feels better when they kind of distance themselves away from the sequel trilogy movies. Again, like I said before in the past about the sequel films, I like portions of these movies. There are particular scenes that I like about the sequel movies, but looking at the sequel movies in isolation, you know, on their own, just looking at them in their entirety, they're really not all that great in my opinion. I mean, The Force Awakens was a movie that really opened the gateway to possibilities. That was, of course, the expectations of The Last Jedi, which failed. Once that failed, fans had no momentum to really be excited about The Rise of Skywalker. Of course, that trailer with Palpatine's laughter geared up that excitement. But as the months rolled by, we kind of got to learn a little bit more about what was really going on and what the title really meant and what Palpatine was going to really be like in this movie, since they were refusing to even show him in the trailer, which suggested that he was barely in it, in which that was the case. So, like I've said before in the past, guys, I think that Jon Favreau, this patchwork is very interesting. The fact that he also had to admit that there was a bad reception when it came to the sequel trilogy movies. Even J.J. Abrams, just the other day, low-key confirmed that the sequels had no plan. And this really is nothing new. I mean, we already knew this, that the sequels had no plan, hence why Kathleen Kennedy went back and forth between creators and Colin Trevorrow and J.J. Abrams and, you know, firing different writers and directors for The Force Awakens. I mean, it really was a big deal. But anyways, guys, let me know what you think about all this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.